So now we begin. We begin in this, this is the first talk of the Rohatsu Sesshin of 2021. And I'd like to congratulate you, all of you, for your determination to investigate even more fully your experienced life using this ancient practice during this ancient ritual of Sesshin, of Rohatsu Sesshin. And confirm with you also the resolve it takes to use this week well, vowing to practice continually in our ordinary home settings, which adds some distractions to our usual Sesshin conditions. There are a number of you who have never attended an actual sesshin, residential sesshin. So this is just business as usual for sesshin. But when we're not in our home, this is a very clear embodied transition to the container of just this. So being at home, it's important to tidy up your practice site, to clear your altar, and to make agreements that you may need, any agreements you may need with those who share your home with you, to refrain from talking, and all of your usual home concerns that are part and parcel of ordinary life with others. Those of you who live with others are supported right in your place of practice, and by their willingness to make room for you to be in concentrated retreat. Please also refrain from using media apart from our time on Zoom, because it stirs us right up again. So it's a challenge, immediately noticeable, to pass these days without checking email or any of the social media portals that shape your usual routines. We suggest that each time we begin a practice period, to light an altar candle and offer incense as a home ritual to affirm your attention, your intention and attention to practice steadily right now. Everything we are doing is sesshin, without exception. So how completely can we each engage every moment during this sesshin? This is what we are putting all of this time aside to do. Even if we don't feel wholehearted all the time, that's okay. Even if you don't feel like practicing, that's okay. We do it anyway. This is how vow carries us. This is how faith in the way carries us. Participating in the retreat schedule of zazen, work, eating, chanting, bowing, all of this carries us along, in spite of what we feel about it or what we think about it. This sesshin, during this sesshin, we're going to become intimate with precious mirror samadhi. And this may seem daunting when we begin. Samadhi may seem like just another one of those Zen words, just another one of those concepts. It is our aspiration to bring forth the direct experience of samadhi for all of us to sink into samadhi, to be warmed and opened and kneaded by samadhi. What we do usually notice in sesshin, at the start of sesshin especially, what we're wrapped up in is not so much samadhi, or rather it's the samadhi of distraction, to use it loosely. It's kind of like being in a marketplace, where the din of everyone and everything in the lively crowd noisily engages us. All the people and pets and relationships and worries and the objects that fill the physical environment of daily life need to be attended to in this, at the beginning of this path that we walk during a week of sesshin. It's like starting out in the marketplace. Everything is left unfinished. We're aware of what is left unfinished, what needs to be done. All of this is what crowds in our minds and burdens our hearts at the start of sesshin. But we always talk about this practice as a path, and so our path wends through this kind of cacophony, this kind of multiplicity of demands and commitments and involvements. But in sesshin, we walk step by step along a path that leads us out of that marketplace, a path to awakening to the same Buddha nature that Shakyamuni Buddha realized in his awakening, which we celebrate in this sesshin. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe. This is the first line of one of our dedications. We hear it so often we may not any longer really appreciate it, but Buddha nature pervades the whole universe. And now that we're beginning sesshin, I remind you of it. And all of us can relax. Now is the time to relax. And take a breath. Just this breath. And let it go. You don't have to expend a lot of effort. It naturally flows in and naturally flows out. There is no will involved. We don't need to grasp after anything. We don't need to push anything away. We don't need to choose. The schedule of sesshin is our path. We only need to follow one foot in front of the other, one breath, only this breath. Which is where we experience the nature of our of our unfolding life, and minutely clarify it. When we really are relaxed and present, we can minutely appreciate each morsel, each moment, which is complete and precise and vital, and is completely beyond the concepts of life and death and all the sticky conceptual labels that we pin to our direct experience. We don't need those labels. So in Sesshin, we are free just to return to the source, to rest in the source each moment. Our direct experience transpires beyond, outside of our concepts about it and all our ideas about it. In Sesshin, we leave speaking behind. And it very naturally, slowly but surely, we concentrate on our direct and wordless experience. This intimacy with everything in our life. We open to the rhythmic fiber and the flowing breath that permeates each moment. In Zazen, in chanting, in resting, in eating. The flow, always flowing. This remarkable appearing and disappearing, always, moment by moment. The path is wide and noisy in the marketplace where we start. We're filled up with our usual thoughts and plans and worries and expectations and maybe dreads. For a long time, one of the feelings I always had at the start of a sesshin was a feeling of dread. Some of you may have that feeling. And the first day, though, is a lot of reminding ourselves that we're not here to shop or to socialize or to find anything. This first day, we notice what we're attracted to and what we want to avoid. All of this shows up and actually continues to, but it has less urgency as we go further into the week, usually. But the practice of Zazen, the practice of just this remains our only concern on the cushion. To remember what we're here for. To really take advantage of this opportunity. We may not be in the habit of putting aside everything so thoroughly. Everything is put aside, and being in company with the Sangha is what characterizes Sesshin. And actually, this week we are in company with thousands and thousands of people in retreat all around the world. Thousands are sharing this Sesshin. Sharing in Buddha's awakening, realizing our own awakening. Being really present to each part of our experience, each moment. So ordinarily, when we're physically together, the container and the schedule of Sesshin holds us snugly like a snake in a tube in the practice, to the intention to be present moment to moment. And we're reminded when we are together in a physical room, not to look up into each other's faces and not to talk, not to read unless instructed to. When we're physically together at the center, we can more easily hold each other to this. But now we are not bodily in the tube together. We are together, but not in quite the same way. So as we begin, it's essential to be a worthy companion to yourself. Each of us needs to be a good companion to ourself in this Sesshin practice, in your home zendo. And vowing this, all habits of distraction I will notice and put it aside over and over, recollecting my vow to be really present. Whenever my attention strays, remembering that this is the only moment of my life in actuality, I will not miss it. The only moment of our life. We hold a vow to be patient, to be compassionate with ourselves and with our impatience or judgment, to hold the mind of a loving parent who encourages us to do our best, to stay present, reminding us to start over when we lose the thread. So in our Zazen, concentrating our original energies back to the very first breath, beginning into this moment and to the very origin of this moment. Look into the origins of this moment. As we settle into Sesshin, we gentle the mind into steadiness and precision, into precise focus on the breath, which helps us gather attention. Each breath is the first and only breath. Intently experiencing the inhale, this particular inhale, which we only inhale once, and this particular exhale, which we only exhale once. Really being filled with a dedicated attention to each breath as we launch into our Sesshin. And we'll notice that the path through Sesshin, day and night by night and day, the noisy marketplace is left behind as we go until quite naturally the path is simply clear and quiet and simple. And we find that we're relaxed deeply into the quiet because we have given ourselves permission to relax. We have affirmed with ourselves that we're willing to relax. We're willing to be here, to be present. And any voice that is not willing, we're aware of. That's also part of this moment. Any voices that say, no, I don't want to, we're aware of that one too. Whether in Zazen or work or eating, resting, walking, brushing teeth, chanting, breathing, there is nothing that needs to be accomplished. We are free in this open space of Sesshin. The verse that we're taking up during Sesshin is Precious Mirror Samadhi, which actually the source of it is kind of unknowable, but it's attributed to Dongshan or Tozan Zenji. It's also known as Hokyo Zamai. And it's a poetic presentation of the kinds of insight into the nature of awareness that is born of deeply concentrated attention. It's a poem chanted as a sutra. And it pictures with us many images that fill our senses, that mark us as we chant them each day. And we plumb their meanings directly through our own experience of them and being aware of what they summon in our mind's eye and in our bodies. A silver bowl filled with snow. It's such a tactile, temperature, visual. It has a scent to it. So these images mark us, and we plumb their meanings directly through not the mind, but what happens in me when I hear it. That's what we're doing. Meaning that does not reside in the words. The words are hints that through our senses and our hearts bring forth this teaching. Meaning that does not reside in the words, but a pivotal moment brings it forth. A pivotal moment that only happens in each of us, in our bodies, our minds, our hearts. Samadhi itself naturally unfolds for each of us over the course of a lifetime of practice, if we are willing to relax into our direct experience. It is precious. We say precious mirror samadhi, precious, because no matter how long it has been hidden, forgotten, or covered over by our inattention or habits of constantly thinking, thinking that separates mind and body. Every fiber of our body and mind are right precisely here in this precious mirror samadhi. It never loses its power to illuminate and reflect. Samadhi is always available. So we thought it would be wonderful to put aside to dedicate our Rohatsu session that celebrates the Buddha's enlightenment to really affirm and support all of us to come into our own. Master Tozan asked some of his monks who were doing zazen with their eyes closed, "Where did you go?" And one student answered, "I entered Samadhi." And the master then said, "Samadhi has no entrance. Where did you enter from?" I love that. I came across that sentence. Where did you go? I entered Samadhi. And I thought, yup. And then he says, but it has no entrance. And I thought, oh, right, it has no entrance. So what is this Samadhi? What do I know of it myself? So where do you enter? Well, anywhere and everywhere. This is where we all always are, where we always begin. We've got the word, we've got the concept, and now we need to cultivate our samadhi chops. Chops are the actual practice, really getting it in the body, owning it, receiving it, maintaining it, letting it go. Opening the Dharma eye, because it is the Dharma eye that sees the infinite world in this precious mirror, through this precious mirror. The mirror that is always reflecting what is. The light, the luminosity of awareness. The precious mirror of this teaching is not an ordinary mirror. The precious mirror does not have a finite shape or size, front or back. Instead, a precious mirror, samadhi, has no edges, no boundaries, no entrance, and reveals an ever-changing infinite view. These are words that point to what lies outside of words and concepts. That's part of the definition of Zen, directly pointing to human experience outside of words and letters. We don't want to get trapped by some idea about samadhi. Instead, just look at what you're experiencing every single moment. Nen by nen by nen by nen. Nen, 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 nen. Samadhi refers to pointing to the power of the precious moment, mirror. The power of precious mirror is like, well, it's not like anything. It's a being liberated into spontaneous unity. There's a spontaneity about the arising of samadhi. Being one with all that is reflected. No separation. This absorption goes beyond all appearances and is undisturbed and complete. We practice completely letting go. It is not an act of will, but a release into our natural state, which we realize through deep relaxation, which is an act of profound faith, really. And even just one taste, we call it the one taste of Zen, even just one taste is all we need to realize the path that we are on. Just one taste opens the Dharma eye. And then continued practice opens it and clarifies it and opens it and opens it even more. All of us here are capable of awakening to the essential nature of our lives and how it functions. The Dharma eye of precious mirror samadhi sees all phenomena undisguised and expressing itself. There's nothing hidden. Our life is always intimately expressing itself. And it's ours to simply notice. The taste of oatmeal, the Incan's 2 rings at the end of Zazen, the feeling of putting on your shoes, of scratching your nose, of lying down at the end of the day of practice, the company of that little bird sitting on the branch outside the window, your sense of worry, your sense of joy. So we encourage you to leave expectations and judgments behind as a part of the din of the marketplace and walk this path, which is always going beyond. And fully realize and appreciate the path that is already and always your life, just as it is. Nothing is missing. Nothing is hidden. All is seen in this precious mirror, samadhi. Please, everyone, practice well, with patience and ease, and confidence in your ability to open fully to your life, just as it is.